What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. So a couple weeks ago, I've been playing this game called Dead by Daylight, and I've been playing it ever since. It's really fun. I think I'm putting more hours in this game than I should have, but I do suggest you guys go and play it. But one of the main reasons why I love this game the most is the story behind each survivor and killer. Because let's be real, some people pick up games for the story. Some people don't even care about how people play online or do this and do that. It's just the sole purpose of the story. But since this is a multiplayer game and you do have to be online to play this game at all times, you kind of have to dabble in that. But when it comes to the story, though, that's what I'm thinking about. And after reading pretty much every character's background story, where they're from, how they ended up where they're at, how these killers got their powers, if they was even killers from the beginning, I sat back and thought to myself, why hasn't anybody tried to start developing a movie based on said characters and said universe? So today, ladies and gentlemen, I'm starting off a chain of videos where I take each character, each killer and survivor, and try to write a movie based on said lore that I'm giving. I'm gonna see if I can throw in some stuff here and there, because there's gonna be some stuff that hasn't been said in their lore, and it might fit them better than to what behavior has given us. Some characters, on one hand, might need a whole rehaul to their character and their lore, and some I'm just gonna leave it like that and add on to it. I'm not now. Give you guys a disclaimer and a warning. When I said rehaul, I mean as I'm hey, some things just don't make sense, so we might have to take what they given us and add more and more and more stuff to it, because there's some characters whose lore I just all right, man, that really don't make much sense. But as time goes on and I start watching more of these videos and their trailers and hearing the archives and reading stuff on there, I can probably put one and one together, two and two together, because some people's stories are actually connected with some other characters. For instance, the Spirit, she's related to the Oni. Now, how are they related? At first, I thought that was her uncle, but really what comes to find out, that's a distant relative, and there's a curse in their bloodline. And I think the Oni is a reason why they have that curse in their bloodline. I don't know. I'm gonna dabble into that more as I get closer and closer to their videos, because they might be a video. Those two might have to share a video of their own. But not just that, I'm also going to do killers and survivors in one video. So say for instance, if you got a DLC pack and it came with a killer and a survivor, then yes, they're going to be in the same video, they're going to be in the same movie. And that's pretty much a spoiler to you as well, because the survivor, 10 out of 10, they're going to be the survivor of their movie, and they have to end up being snatched up by the entity. That's pretty much a spoiler, so be ready for that. At the end of every video, the entity's gonna pop up somehow, some way. He gonna snatch up the said killer and survivor. So think of Oni, for instance. Oni's gonna be snatched up into the realm of the entity, and so is the character, the survivor that was also debuted in his DLC as well. She's gonna be snatched up. So just be looking forward to me saying that person is gonna be the sole survivor of their movie. But how it's gonna happen is gonna be a mystery. I haven't came up with it yet. Now, certain killers aren't gonna get a movie or any ideas from me, because of the fact of the matter is that they've already got some, Stranger Things. They're not getting one. Freddy, Michael, the Demogorg, the Leatherface, the Scream, Ghostface. Even though the Ghostface killer is a made-up character for Dead by Daylight, the Ghostface mask itself is not. So I said, no, we're not going to do Danny, because Danny was never introduced in none of the Scream movies. He's specifically made up for this game, but the whole ghost face and attire is not. So I decided, no, we're not going to do that. I might later on down the line if I change my mind, but for right now, that's a big no from me over here. So any licensed killers that they got for the game, they're not getting one. Even though Silent Hill, I could probably come up with one for Silent Hill. Those guys, I think Silent Hill already had a movie. I don't know, I haven't seen it. But licensed killers, that's just a no. And on the survivor side, licensed survivors like Ash, a homeboy from Left 4 Dead, All those guys that are licensed survivors, that's also a no as well. They're not gonna get anyways, because they either came with Freddy or Michael or Leatherface and all that jazz. But no. Now, the first one I will be starting off with is your boy, the Trapper. The first one is going to be based on the Trapper, the Entity, and Mr. Baker. I think his name is Benjamin Baker. I think it's Benjamin Baker. Because technically, Benjamin Baker does come across the Trapper in his memoirs, because he talks about the MacMillan estate. So that is a movie that we're going to start off with first, because the Trapper, Benjamin Baker, and the Entity, because that's how everything starts off. Now, how these movies will be set up, they're all going to be connected in a way. It's going to be like how the MCU and the DC universe, how they do their thing. Or better yet, how the Dark Universe was supposed to be. But due to, the Mummy not really selling in theaters, they decided to say no to the Dark Universe. So the Dead by Daylight universe is going to be something just like that. All movies are going to be connected in one way, which is going to lead up to a crescendo of maybe 2 big movies of how the killers and the survivors work together to take down the Entity. I don't know. I haven't got that far yet. We're just going to start off with Trapper, Mr. Baker, and the Entity. So sit back, relax, because this might be a really long ass video for right now.
I would start at the beginning, but I don't know when that was or how long ago I was banished to this prison. What I know is I've been observing and studying the inner workings of this entity that had once been, well, an obsession. How ironic that I should be sentenced to live out the rest of my days in the very thing I sought to destroy. An obsession turned prison, as all obsessions are, I suppose. Arcus 54. The atmosphere of the realms is dark and grim, to say the least, but also ever-changing. I've already remarked that the atmosphere is misty, even foggy at times, and that this fog feels alive. It seems to contain swirls and streams of memories or imprints of beings from multiple terror worlds. It is as if the entity absorbs all the psychic energy and thoughts of beings it snatches as it journeys through the endless cosmos. I've used the Oris to study the black fog, and have come to 3 observations that will prove invaluable to finding a way home. First, the fog is rich in auric particles, leading me to believe this dimension is more conscious than it is material. Second, I should be able to manifest anything I am able to pull from rifts in the fog, using techniques passed down from my family. Third, the entity is far more ancient than we ever suspected back home, and most of our theories and conjectures were wrong. The rich presence of auric particles and cells suggest it is one of the original ones, an ancient. Arcus 142. The entity is the cosmic embodiment of evil. Back home, we witnessed how its very presence turns worlds inside out, how it seems to remove or extinguish any sense of empathy or compassion within communities, how it brings people to the brink of madness and, well, pushes them in. Now I understand. It does all this in order to rip victims from their lives and have them play out an endless trial of terror that it presumably needs for its own survival. And there, perhaps, lies the key to its destruction, if an ancient can be destroyed at all. End the trials. Destroy its ability to sap dark nectar from victims like a cruel parasite feeding from a flower. At least the archives affords me a better understanding of the entity, why it moves from universe to universe, picking victims off and devouring worlds as though at a cosmic buffet. What I have yet to conclude is whether it is attracted to worlds that are brimming with darkness and madness, or if it is in fact the catalyst of such darkness and madness. Arcus 557. All planes of existence are a unique mix of conscious auric particles and material particles. The entity is almost certainly pure consciousness. The observable fact of existence is the material world responds to and changes with consciousness. Collective consciousness is the key. The body, the home, the trial, all of it is an expression of the entity's unconscious need for fear and terror. The distinct observation in the specimens chosen by the entity is that they all come from worlds that have failed to understand the metaphysical relationship between their thoughts and the world they live in. This is not by chance. It is, to my mind, self-preservation. Victims who know this truth and have honed their ability to manifest could be poisonous to the entity. This leads me to believe the entity is attracted to dark worlds because darkness and chaos are clear indicators that inhabitants have failed to connect the dots between the collective consciousness and the health of their world. The conclusion, then, might be that the entity feeds off ignorance. Arcus 731. Hard to tell when one day ends and another begins. The tower and the library help me cope, but it's hard to forget the truth of my situation, even for a moment, knowing everything I have is a lie. I have access to anything I want, and yet I have nothing. The survivors continue to undergo the trials of the most brutal of killers. I continue to search the fog for the memories of those who found a way to escape. It sometimes feels like a futile search. But then again, I've got time on my hands. Lots of time.
Now, I was going to put Benedict Baker's bio, well, not bio, but his little journal entries and all that stuff. But I found all of them and it was kind of long. So I don't think y'all want to be sitting through all that talking that he's going to do. And the same thing with the Trapper, his backstory. They kind of make them really long in Dead by Daylight. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shorten it for you guys, give y'all the meat and potatoes of both stories, and tell y'all how this movie's going to roll out. So Mr. Baker himself is, I would say he will be our first protagonist when it comes down to the trilogy of, not trilogy, but, this long chain of movies. And the crazy thing is he's not playable in the game, or is he? I believe homeboy sitting in the archives is Mr. Baker, and he finally found a way to get up out of there. Well, I wouldn't say he got up out of there, but he found a way to still keep an eye on the entity, but also, give us story time when it comes down to each character that comes into this game. Now, as you read through his little memoirs and, his journal entries, you see that what he was trying to do at the beginning was he was trying to figure out what happened to the people all the residents in Weeks that disappeared. And Weeks is a name of a town, not as in like, a couple weeks ago, like that kind of thing. And the funny thing about it is, as you read on about what is going on, the first place he goes to is the MacMillan estate. And it is also, that's the estate that the Trapper stays on, because the Trapper is Ethan MacMillan, the only son, I think that's their only child, of the MacMillans, and we're gonna get to him in just a moment. So pretty much he was just investigating on what was going on with the MacMillans and what happened in that little town. So how we would do things in the movie is we'll start the movie off with him and him talking about how he's gonna solve the case of why is everybody disappearing in that small little town. And as we see him get ready to go to that town, we switch over to the Trapper, who is Ethan MacMillan. He pretty much is a kid who loved, who put his dad on a pedestal. He loved the way his dad just took charge. We're talking about he gave no fucks about his workers. They were pretty much, I won't say billionaires, but they were rich, really, really rich, just because his father ran a mining company in their little town. Now, at first, his son wasn't really with the shit. He was just all like, Dad, it's kind of fucked up. But deep down inside, he likes what his dad was doing. He likes the fact that he made his workers feel like, they were slaves. They were trying to build a union and all that stuff. And his son found out about it. So he wanted to tell his dad about it. And I think he did tell his dad about it. And I guess I skipped over that part. But he ends up telling his father about it. And even though not MacMillan, but Ethan was part of, the work crew, he was pretty much like a rat, pretty much. And anytime something would be said between the co-workers and stuff, he would want to tell his dad, but at the same time, he doesn't want to tell his dad. Now, I don't know what changed him from being, the way he was at the beginning to this big hunking monster that's pretty much killing everybody. I think that's the entity, his persuasion, his influence on him to where he ends up becoming this little sick bastard that we know as a trapper. Now, when Mr. Baker shows up to the MacMillan estate, somehow, some way, I guess he blinks, and next thing you know, he wakes up in some place that he doesn't even know. He's never been there before. They said he wakes up in front of a campfire. Well, in the movie, I would sit here and say that as he's, gets to the MacMillan estate, I would say the trapper does see him. And he starts chasing him throughout the estate. And maybe as he's hiding from the trapper, maybe he falls down into the mine and wakes up, and next thing you know, he's in the forest with a campfire. Because when he falls down and hits the ground, he's still alive. He's just unconscious. And that's when the entity comes in. He's like, oh, this dude, he's trying to foil my plans, quote unquote. And now he brings him over into the realm of the entity. And same thing with the trapper. Now, the movie, how I put it, is it'll be like that. We'll go back and forth between the characters until we lead up to the crescendo of the ending, pretty much. The trapper is going to be showing us that, he's killing folks, because we also got to go over not just his childhood, but what led him into being what he is now. And that is the fact that he kills his dad. He puts his dad in the basement. He blows up the mine. He traps hundreds of people in that mine, killing them. And that's how he becomes a trapper. So we got to find some way. That would be like almost to the end of it, because at the end, you'll see that Mr. Baker finds out that, holy shit, this man just didn't kill his father, but he just killed everybody in the town. He'll end up finding his dead father in the basement, because, he put his father in the basement. His father's mind was, deteriorating. He was getting old. And Ethan didn't like that. He was like, oh, you're not strong anymore, so that means you're useless, so I'm going to get rid of you. Because his father used to teach him, only the strongest will survive. His dad dressed up like a bear and killed his own brother. The dude dressed up like a bear, went and got a bear suit, and killed his own brother. What kind of deranged Wile E. Coyote shit is that? That is beyond me. But he still did it. And Ethan knew that his father killed his uncle. Come on now. And the same thing with his mother. I think his mother was killed by his father too. I don't know. They don't really say much about his mother. But like I was saying, we'll be going back and forth between the characters. And as they lead up to the crescendo of them meeting each other, and Baker running away, trying to survive the attack of the trapper, ends up falling into a hole, seeing all these dead bodies, and he ends up passing out, ends up waking up, campfire. He's starting to see he's pretty much sitting in front of a campfire, and all this thick ass fog is around him. As he gets up and tries to walk through the fog and all that stuff, he starts hearing screams and yells and knives. When you swing the knife, it makes that sound, in horror movies. He hears that. He hears the plague throwing up. You would start to see little shadows of survivors and or killers chasing them around and stuff, which is everybody gonna be like, holy shit. So this is gonna be like a shared universe. It's gonna be a shared universe. That right there will confirm that it's gonna be a shared universe, and every other killer and survivor is gonna have a movie of their own. And as he's walking through this fog, he bumps into the trapper. The trapper stabs him, and he runs off. And this will also show us that, that once he dies at the end, you will see that, he's gonna wake back up in front of that campfire, and he has to go at it all over again and again and again and again and again, just like in the game. So he will learn, after he's being chased through the fog by the trapper, he's starting to see the Oni pops up, the plague pops up, the clown. I would say Demogorgon, but I forgot Stranger Things. all the characters that Dead by Daylight, original characters, they will start like coming out of the fog. Then you start seeing survivors screaming like, oh shit, you know, they're running away too. And Benedict Baker is just looking around like he's just confused. He's confused. He's like, what the fuck is going on? And by the time he gathers himself together and puts one and one together, he turns around and he ends up getting killed brutally by the trapper. I didn't come up with the way he kills him. He just kills him. All right. So as he's trying to fight for his life, as he's just trying to stay alive, he's gasping for air, he dies. And he's thinking to himself, okay, sweet release. That means he doesn't have to deal with this anymore. He knew that he was dealing with, you know, powers that he knew that he couldn't deal with. He knew that this was going to be a bad idea, but he still wanted to figure out what happened. And now he found out what happened to the town of Weeks. Now he can't get the trapper arrested or anything like that because he's dead. So there is no proof of the trapper killing all these people. So as he takes his final breath, he wakes up in front of the campfire. And he wakes in front of the campfire and he looks around to see where the hell is he at. And he starts seeing 4 other people. And I haven't came up with what those people are going to be. It's probably going to be in the next video. And he's looking at the campfire and he's getting up and he sees that he's in the woods now instead of a thick ass fog. And next thing you know, all you hear is a chainsaw revving up. And as they look in the distance, they see a deformed man with his like skin connected to his shoulder. And that's when it's confirmed that the next movie will be the Hillbilly. So next video, next episode, it's going to be the Hillbilly. I hope you guys like this kind of videos. Come on, these characters should get a movie. I feel like this will be a dope ass movie if it's given to the right writer and the right producer and the right, you know, movie company that would do something like this. I wouldn't say Blumhouse because I don't really like Blumhouse horror movies like that. But if you put it in the right hands and give it to the right people, maybe it could be a good movie and it could be a good, you know, shared universe. So I didn't really talk about the entity because at the beginning of the video, y'all saw that little, you know, journal that they had written down for the entity. So I'll let them tell the story because his story was short. There's not much we know about the entity besides it's evil. It's evil as fuck. So, but that is pretty much how I would set up the first movie between the trapper, the entity, and Mr. Baker, because they all kind of do deal with each other. And then, you know, if you think you can add on more to it, please in the comments below, share what you should think the first movie should be about. Do you think this is the right way it should go, or should it be something a little bit different? But other than that, guys, I love y'all. I appreciate y'all checking out my content and all that stuff. But other than that, I love y'all. Take care of yourselves. Peace.